What's up, guys? We're going to go over connective tissue now for our midterm review for the histology, which is a good little walkthrough. I'm going to once again use still using the PowerPoint. I'm using the PDF files since those open up easier, and that gives y'all a key to the PDF files if you're when they will download the PowerPoint. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now, so bear with me. Make sure we got this thing recording, and we're going to walk through this one. It worked out good, I think. Another one, I'm going pretty fast. I'm cutting some of the stories and kind of diving into so y'all can get a nice review of your midterm test, which is coming up real soon for y'all next week. Or I got a few guys that got one for their mini term here in just a little while, so I'm kind of throwing this out there for them today. All right, here we go. First of all, this is a loose connective, right, at 40, then 100, then 400. Notice the elastic fibers, fibroblast, and other collagen fibers in there. So that would be one you would look at. Loose connective tissue located all over the body, specifically under the epithelium, kind of holding it in place. We got a couple of those. And then here was our dense, regular connective tissue out of focus here. This is the ligament at 40, 100, and then 400 power, okay? Probably won't see this one since it's out of focus, but it is collagen fibers running left to right with fibroblast stuck in there. But here's my favorite one. This is the tendon at 40, 100, 400 power. And notice the little waves, and these are dense, regular connective tissue with fibroblasts in here that make the fibers that hold the tendon together. Remember, tendons connect bone to muscle, ligaments connect bone to bone. Then we have dense irregular, which is the dermis of the skin right through here. Actually, this is a great picture showing the outside edge, which we looked at in the epithelium for stratified squamous, epithelium flaky layer. And then this dermis, and then where that fat layer is the subcutaneous layer below the skin, below the dermis, so the layer of fat. So we're looking right in here, 40, 100, looking all in where my pointer is, and 400 power. Remember I said this looked like sushi to me side view, but several people didn't seem to get that this year. So you can just make it as you wish, but this is dense, irregular connective tissue under the dermis of the skin. I backed up a little bit. I'm jumping back and forth on these slides. I'm using my little mouse rotator wheel here, and so it may jump because this is the PDF files we're using. Then we had elastic connective on the aorta, 40, and then 100 is a good view of that. Running elastic fibers left to right to give that aorta, largest blood vessel in the human body, to give it some elasticity, and then 400 power. That's kind of evil at 400 power. Probably that's kind of may show you both of those. Then we had reticular connective, remember, which forms a hairnet that holds the blood cells in it to filter the lymph and the blood in the spleen. Here we have, I believe this is the spleen first at 40, 100, and 400, and you can see the reticular fibers in there forming that light red or this mesh all up in here. See it running all between the dark purple cells. Those are our white blood cells that are going to filter the blood for pathogens in the spleen and filter the lymph for pathogens in the lymph node. And you would not have to distinguish between lymph node and spleen on our midterm, but I would like for you to call it one of those two. We'll back it up, 100, 40, 40, 100, 400, and then here's our lymph node at 40, 100, and 400. So as somebody once said, hey, see a bunch of dots, go with reticular connective tissue on your midterm, okay? Then we're going to go to our three types of cartilage, and I'm going to skip on over to hyaline cartilage first. Here we go. So here is the hyaline cartilage at 40, adipose and then pseudostratified columnar out here, 100, 400 chondrocytes living in the holes called lacuna. Now remember we said this one doesn't have fibers and its smooth matrix. Almost got that gelatin jello look, right? Which is one of the components of the matrix. And then we had two other types of cartilage, one with fibrous connective tissues running through it, which is fibrocartilage here. Back it up, it's kind of a weird slide. Got to blow it up, looking right in here. And this is a kind of a mixture of two. It is hyaline cartilage. You see the chondrocytes and lacunas. And these swirls are dense, regular connective tissue, ligaments, and tendons. And this is the intervertebral disc of your vertebrae. I think this is the picture you'd see on your midterm for fibrocartilage, okay? And then so we had fibrocartilage, Then we had hyaline. There's hyaline cartilage versus our last one. This is the ear of the rat. And we're going to blow this up. Look at that funky rat epithelium out there and some adipose. 100, 400, and you see all those elastic fibers gives the ear elasticity so it bounces back up. Whereas the nose hyaline cartilage, you break it, is stuck in the direction you break it. Okay, so elastic cartilage. Then we have 40 power adipose. I like it at 100. Somebody once called this robin tissue. That's kind of mean since I'm fat. And then 400 power. Looks like broken windshield to me. For little circles, adipocyte cells holding fat for energy, et cetera, et cetera. And then bone that no one should ever miss, right? Bone is classic there. At 100 power there, we can take it down to 400. We can see lacunas that are held the osteocyte cells lived in that made the bone, and they've died in these slides. So that's dead bone, and then that's the osteon, Herversian canal that contains arteries, veins, and nerves. So no one should miss bone. Pretty straightforward. And then we looked at blood. Here is blood at 40 power, and that's one slide you just throw on there and focus because the whole slide is blood. 40, 100, 400 power, and we learned these 7 things that are in blood, and we'll go through them kind of quick. Red blood cells, which are all the circles, the little cellular fragments in here that look like dust or dark, or maybe some trash in the cell. Those are platelets that are going to stick to the scar tissues when you puncture a blood vessel. So anything, remember all of our blood vessels are lined by simple squamous epithelium. So these cells will stick to anything that's not simple squamous epithelium. So when you poke a nail in your body and pull it and the nail comes out, as blood leaves, those platelets grab a hold of the tissues as it go out, and that causes that first platelet plug or scab, if you would, that stops some of that bleeding, okay? So red blood cells, always in the field of view, can always see those. Platelets, pretty much every time you can see them in the field of view. And that brings us to the 5 white blood cells that are super important for you to know as a nurse for the rest of your life. Okay? The most common one is the ones at the blue arrow here called the neutrophil. Very clearly, 3 or 4 lobe nucleus, very weird looking little cells, are very common, and they are phagocytic cells that eat pathogens, bacteria out of our body. So they love to eat bacteria. Okay? The second most common is this green one at the green arrow is a lymphocyte. And that's not the best lymphocyte I've ever seen. I think I got another one right. There's another lymphocyte, and that's probably a very good one there with a drop of cytoplasm, a perfectly round nucleus and a drop of cytoplasm right there. Okay, and we'll see some more. I'll back up and we'll see some more. But that lymphocyte is your specific immune system, your B and T cells, including the cells that make antibodies, the B cells, and the helper T cells that AIDS targets is in that group. So lymphocytes are specific immunity. We'll talk about that later. And these are 60, 60%, 65% neutrophils, 30, 35% lymphocytes, something like that. That's the biggest majority. And then the next most common is our big boy here. I call him Shoney's big boy. This is the monocyte. Look how much bigger he is than the neutrophil. And he usually is irregular shaped. This member leaves the blood and becomes the macrophage, which likes to eat bacteria and other foreign particles in our body. So it's called the big eater in a lot of books. It's a big, large, phagocytic cell. Okay, and so it's a pretty common, 6%, something like that, 3 to 6%, I believe. Okay, so neutrophils, monocyte, lymphocyte. Lymphocyte, platelets, lymphocyte, neutrophil, platelets, in blue. I'm not sure. This is a bad slide here. I think that's probably a basophil. Not a real good one. We'll put that on the test. Neutrophils, lymphocyte, neutrophil, platelets. And here is our next one. Now, we've already only down to 2 now. We've had the neutrophil, lymphocytes, and monocyte. Those are the 3 most common. And the next to the 4th most common, or next to the rarest, is this eosinophil that has a red tint to it. If you look at it, you can see now, there's a little bit of purple here, but in a better photograph, it would be red. But this kind of makes it look a little weird. Even the red blood cells don't look exactly red. But notice it has a bilobe nucleus, looks like 2 lobes, looks like a dumbbell that's been bending if somebody picked it up. And it has these granulocytes in its cytoplasm that are red, or purple in this case. And that's a telltale sign you're looking at it. It's also phagocytic, but it also plays a big role in modulating allergies, right? And I don't know, I still think it's a little bit more to be discovered. You need to have these or you're sick. Too many are indications of certain types of sicknesses, but it's a pretty red slide, okay? There it is again on the right, and a neutrophil and a smaller monocyte there. Notice it's still quite a bit bigger than that neutrophil. And that brings us to our last one. Here are two neutrophils. That's my favorite photo of a lymphocyte at red, neutrophils at green, platelets at blue, and here is our basophil. This is the rarest blood cell, less than 1%. Eosinophils are around 1 or 2%, something like that, 1%, and these are less than 1%. And it is the cell that leaves the blood and goes in the connective tissue and becomes called the mast cell. You may remember that produces histamines and some heparin. The histamine causes inflammation. I take an antihistamine, Claritin D, to stop these from attacking the pollen in my nose as I breathe. Okay, so basophil is a very cool cell. Okay, very unique looking, and it has these big blue granulocytes sticking out of it, kind of bumping like it's going to spew, and it does spew histamines and heparin out into the body or in the blood. So that's its function. Monocyte at blue, neutrophils at green, etc. Another lymphocyte, proteolymphocyte, and a basophil. I think I skipped a slide. No, I didn't. Okay, basophil there at yellow, lymphocyte at red, neutrophil green. Reds are lymphocytes here, platelets at blue, neutrophils at green, busted eosinophil at yellow, and 4 neutrophils at green, and platelets at blue. I'm kind of doing the blitzo, going kind of fast, trying to knock it out real quick, review of blood. I believe we're getting close to the end. I think that is the end of my blood slides. Hope that has been helpful to you. And get out there and watch this a couple times, make 100 on this midterm. Talk to you all later, guys. We're going to stop this thing here and get it to stop. Here we go.